Welcome to our series, Questions and Answers for a World in Crisis. Today we take up the subject, nerves. Sri Aurobindo. One can bring down the strength, but it is also necessary to see that the body has sufficient food, sleep, and rest. Absence of these things strain the nerves. And if the nerves are strained, the body feels fatigue, becomes weakened. The physical sadhana is to bring down the higher light and power and peace and Ananda into the body consciousness, to get rid of the inertia of the physical, the doubts, limitations, external tendency of the physical mind, the defective energies of the vital physical nerves, in parentheses, and bring in instead the true consciousness there, so that the physical may be a perfect instrument for the divine will. The food and care for the body is only to get it into good condition. Afterwards, it would not be necessary to attend to such things. The physical nerves are part of the material body, but they are extended into subtle nerves in the subtle body, and there is a connection between the two. Yes, there are nerves in the subtle body. The physical nerves have many centers or plexuses. The nervous being proper is part of the physical, and it starts from the physical center, the muladhara. The nerves are distributed all over the body, but the vital physical action is concentrated in its origin between the muladhara and the center just above it. It is in the outer physical consciousness that the difficulty still tries to persist and brings the restlessness sometimes into the physical mind, sometimes into the nerves, sometimes in the shape of bodily trouble into the body. But all these things can and must go. Even the illnesses can go entirely with the growth of peace and power in the nerves and physical cells, stomach pains, weakness of the eyes, and everything else. The first thing I tell people when they want not to eat or sleep is that no yoga can be done without sufficient food and sleep. See the Gita on this point. Fasting or sleeplessness make the nerves morbid and excited, and weaken the brain, and lead to delusions and fantasies. The Gita says, yoga is not for one who eats too much or sleeps too much. Neither is it for one who does not eat or does not sleep. But if one eats and sleeps suitably, then one can do it best. It is the same with everything else. How often have I said that excessive retirement was suspect to me, and that to do nothing but meditate was a lopsided and therefore unsound sadhana. It is a want of sleep itself that brings the symptoms of uneasiness. The action of sadhana cannot of itself bring this kind of reaction. It is only if the body gets strained by want of sleep, insufficient food, overwork, or nervous excitement that there are these things. It is probably because the nerves are strained in the daytime and you do not relax into ease, that it is difficult to sleep. The nerves are nothing but channels. They have no power in themselves to alter the information given by the organs. If the nerve channels are quiet and clear, the only possible disturbance of the information is from or through the mind. Now, the manas, or sixth sense, is in itself a channel like the nerves, a channel for communication with the buddhi or brain force. Therefore, man finds that the more he refuses to be dominated by his nerves and body, the more he draws back from implication of himself in his physical and vital parts, the greater is his freedom. He becomes the master of his own responses to the world's contacts, no longer the slave of external touches. The mother. Question. Some people have a well-developed body, but in spite of that, they are nervous. Then, mother. Usually it is, perhaps they have a very weak vital build. Their nerves may be weak. They may have a weak nervous system. Perhaps it is that. Perhaps it is an irregularity from birth. But it could also be a mental weakness. Because while it is true that a healthy body gives strong nerves, it is still more important to have healthy thoughts in order to have solid nerves. If your thought is not healthy, if your feelings and thoughts are bad, so to speak, your nerves become very bad, still worse. For instance, those who entertain all kinds of unhealthy fancies, those who like unhealthy reading, unhealthy conversations, there are many of this kind. There is a large number of them. Well, they may lose all control over their nerves. They may become extremely nervous and yet have a body that's in a fine condition and very healthy. Unhealthy conversations and reading, I can tell you that there's nothing worse than that. And when you do sadhana truly, when you are really trying to progress, you notice that when you say useless words, no matter how few they are, immediately there is a terrible uneasiness which gets hold of you. You feel as though all the nerves of the head were being pulled. And there is also something churning here, gesture, which hurts you. And you feel a great emptiness within. And you have heartburn, as though you had eaten something very bad. All this only because of some uselessly spoken words. Besides, it is a sure indication. As soon as the uneasiness begins, one knows one must stop. Now it is finished. Only most people are so unconscious that they don't even notice it. And with their warped will, they compel their system to do what it should not. So the system is more or less docile, obeys, and continues to deteriorate slowly in this way, without even showing visible reactions. The hours before midnight are the best for resting the nerves. Even during the waking hours, relaxation is indispensable for all who want to maintain their nervous balance. To know how to relax the muscles and the nerves is an art which should be taught to children when they are very young. It is a recognized fact that in order to progress rapidly, one must not be afraid of difficulties. On the contrary, by choosing to do the difficult thing at every opportunity, one increases the willpower and strengthens the nerves. When you first learned to walk, you often stumbled, you fell, you bumped yourself, you cried. Now you walk without giving it a thought, and you run skillfully. Well, the movements of walking and running are a splendid example of the orderly functioning of your nerves, your muscles, and all your organs. You must have a strong body and strong nerves. You must have a strong basis of equanimity in your external being. If you have this basis, you can contain a world of emotion and yet not have to scream it out. This does not mean that you cannot express your emotion, but you can express it in a beautiful, harmonious way. To weep or scream or dance about is always a proof of weakness, either of the vital or the mental or the physical nature. For on all these levels, the activity is for self-satisfaction. One who dances and jumps and screams has the feeling that he is somehow very unusual in his excitement, and his vital nature takes great pleasure in that. That is, instead of being in a state of tension, instead of making a tremendous effort to silence the inner machine and be able to concentrate your thought upon what you want, when you do it quite simply, naturally, without effort, automatically, and you decide to meditate for some reason or other, what you want to see, learn, or know remains in your consciousness, and all the rest disappears as by a miracle. Everything falls quiet in you. All your being becomes silent. Your nerves are altogether soothed. Your consciousness is wholly concentrated, naturally, spontaneously, and you enter with an intense delight into a yet more intense contemplation. The imperative condition for cure is calm and quietness. Any agitation, any nervousness prolongs the illness.